We're sitting in one spot. We're eating everything. We're drinking like fish. Pretty much put a porta potty in the driveway, and this has been a tailgate party for everybody.
Welcome to the season 1 finale of the Tailgate. That's Ralph Vacchiano. I'm Michelle Margaux. Shaun O'Hara is going to be joining us in a bit. He's going to tell us his thoughts on the current Giants quarterback, Daniel Jones, and his thoughts on the former Giants quarterback, Eli Manning, and whether or not he's a Hall of Famer. But first, Ralph, absolute heartbreak for Giants fans on Sunday night. They watched and tweeted in despair as the Eagles clearly threw that game, and Joe Judge is not happy about it.
To disrespect the game by going out there and not competing for 60 minutes and doing everything you can to help those players win, we will never do that as long as I'm the head coach of the New York Giants.
Well, he didn't exactly come out and say it, but Ralph, what are your thoughts on the Philly flop?
Well, I think he said it pretty good without actually mentioning the Eagles or Doug Peterson's name. But first of all, Joe Judge can really read a room because that played incredibly well with Giants fans. My overall thought, though, is I'm not really worked up about what Philly did. This happens all the time in the NFL and pro sports. I also think it's kind of ironic because the Giants fans that are furious at the Eagles for tanking this game wanted the Giants to tank a year ago so they could move up in the draft and get Chase Young. It is what it is in sports. Get over it, win more than 6 games, and you don't have to deal with this stuff.
Not to be lost in the shuffle, the Jets finally moved on from Adam Gase. So who's going to be involved in this hiring process, and what kind of coach are they looking for?
They want a guy who can be a leader of everyone and be inspiring. You know, be what Joe Judge has been to the Giants. Get the entire team to believe, rile up the fan base, just make everybody think he's got this. It sounds like it's going to be general manager Joe Douglas's call, which is a smart thing, but that's what they say. We'll see how it works in reality because owners sometimes tend to meddle a little bit. And, you know, Woody Johnson is on his way back from his ambassadorship to the United Kingdom. He's still the owner. If he lands back in America and says, I want to do this, everybody's going to jump and do that.
Time for a new segment that we call The Architect. And Ralph, you're going to draw up some blueprints to construct a good offseason for each team, starting with the Jets.
Yep, and I'm ready to go too. I got my architect's pencil. I don't have blueprints. I can maybe write a little on the screen, but they need to get weapons for whomever their quarterback is. Now, I know that's a big question. Is it Sam Darnold? Is it a rookie? Doesn't matter if he's throwing to the same guys. They need to find a number 1 wide receiver. They could use some running back help. LaMichael Pirine, the rookie this year, is really the only guy likely to come back. And I'd also like to see a big stud pass rusher on the defensive side of the ball, which, by the way, is something that's been on their blueprints for like a decade, and they still haven't found it.
Yeah, speaking of blueprints, I'm a little disappointed that you don't have a prop this segment. New year, new Ralph, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm late. A new lazy, I don't care. I'm like Doug Peterson. Who cares?
How about the Giants?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting to me because they sort of have the same problem that the Jets do. They need that big stud pass rusher. Now, it might be Leonard Williams. They got to try to re-sign him. They also need a number 1 receiver. We know it's not Golden Tate. He's not coming back. I think that Daniel Jones would have a lot more success if he had that Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson type guy to throw to. The most important thing for them, get Saquon Barkley back healthy, get him to play 16 games. Their entire offensive plan was built around this guy, and they lose him in week 2. We need to see what he can do healthy for 16 games next year.
Yeah, I remember he was on my fantasy team.
That fingers. That's a fantasy killer right there.
Let's dive into the comments section. And Ralph, what do fans want the Giants to focus on this offseason?
When I talk to fans about what the Giants need much, there's 2 things that come up that's really born of their just the utter hatred they have for these 2 people. One is Dave Gettleman. The Giants fans wanted him fired. It's not going to happen, but that's, the first thing they say, what do you need to fix this team? Get Dave out of there. Well, he's coming back. So now their hope rests on getting rid of Evan Ingram, who is just the guy that Giants fans love to hate, and I get it. He may be we'll call it a Pro Bowl tight end, even though nobody really understands how he made the Pro Bowl. He just dropped so many passes. Giants fans have had it with him. He's under contract for next year. He's probably not going anywhere, but I think they'd love to see Dave Gettleman, the other guy they love to hate, make a deal for Evan Ingram for pretty much just about anything.
What about Jets fans?
They are a little all over the map because this is a team that needs absolutely everything. They've moved on to falling in love with Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, the probable number 2 quarterbacks. But, again, look up and down that roster. A number one receiver. They may need as many as 3 new offensive linemen, a running back, a tight end, unless you think Chris Herndon's last game is a sign of things to come. Defensive lineman, an edge rusher, linebackers, a cornerback, re-signing Marcus May, and maybe some safety help. That's pretty much everything, and I think that's the bad news for Jets fans is they kind of understand it, that you can make anything a priority for them this offseason.
Ralph, call me crazy.
You're crazy.
Justin Fields looks good. Is there any shot that Jags are crazy and they pick him over Lawrence?
What I love about the Justin Fields talk is that a couple of weeks earlier, he looked so bad in the Big Ten championship game that everybody thought he's going to last forever in the draft. Then he goes out and lights it up at the college football semifinals, and now he may go number 1, given the way scouts almost literally drool over Trevor Lawrence, comparing him to John Elway and Andrew Luck. I would be stunned if a team came away not thinking he was the best prospect in this draft.
Let's high step in the friend zone and welcome in NFL Network Analyst and former Giants center Shaun O'Hara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. Ralph, what's up, my man? How you been?
I'm doing good, Shaun. Good to see you as always. Thanks again for being here.
We have to start with Sunday night. What do you make of how the Eagles played out that game?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real head scratcher. Obviously, for the Giants, they can't be upset about it. They had a chance to handle their own business plenty of times during the season. Everything everybody's gone through just to play the games, and you get to week 17. At that point, that's your playoff game. There's no more football. The only way to end that is in the locker room celebrating a victory, and you have a chance to do that. Now, I go back to Ralph was covering the Giants at this point, 2004. Eli Manning supplanted Kurt Warner, kind of very similar to what Jalen Hurts did. And then in week 17 against the Dallas Cowboys at home, Eli lost his first 6 straight games, and then he won his final game of the season. And you know what? We celebrated a victory, a huge Giants victory. They played New York, and Eli got his very first victory. And I'd like to think that created some momentum. We won the division the next year.
I think back to that game, there was certainly no talk amongst the players then of not wanting to play. I think to 2007, too, the 16th game of the year, you're playing the undefeated Patriots, your playoff spot is locked up. Everybody wants to be out on the field. Players always do. So what do you think that did to the players on the Eagles on Sunday night?
When you've got a great head coach and somebody you respect, you don't question, what what their decisions are, and certainly as long as you know their motives. But to your point, with Tom Coughlin at the helm, look, we got the direct order, early Wednesday morning. We're playing to win. Doug Peterson, there's probably some moments where he wishes he would have communicated some things differently to the team. But, I think in his mind, offensively, they were kind of struggling. And you know what? He said, look, I did this before when I benched Carson Wentz and put in Jalen Hurts to create a spark. Let's see if we could try it again and see if it will work.
Let's turn to the quarterback for a second. How would you evaluate Daniel Jones after year 2?
Yeah, Daniel Jones, look, you can use the cliches that are out there, the sophomore slump, whatever cliche you want to throw out there. I look at Daniel Jones like this felt like a rookie year all over again. To me, it got hard to judge and really evaluate Daniel Jones because there was so much dysfunction at times around him in the passing game. I think the one thing that Daniel Jones will probably look back on this year, being injured with the hamstring, I think in the long run could make him a better quarterback because for his entire life, he's been able to rely on his legs to get him out of trouble. And now that was taken away from him. It's kind of like if you lose one of your 5 senses, some of the other senses get stronger. I think that could have maybe benefited him and maybe will benefit him in the future to say, you know what, okay, I need to have a better exit strategy. I can't always just scramble and run away with the balls.
Eli Manning, you have to know him as well as any of his former teammates. Is Eli a Hall of Famer?
Is Eli a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. I don't think you could talk about NFL history without talking about Eli Manning. On the biggest stages, he made some of the biggest plays. If Eli doesn't make those throws, and in Super Bowl 42, if we don't win that game, they're talking about the New England Patriots in a completely different manner. I mean, they're the only team to go 19-0, it completely changes the course. I mean, it's the butterfly effect, right? And that, I mean, it completely changes everything. So when you look at those aspects of it, I think he's absolutely a Hall of Famer.
All right. Well, Shaun, thank you so much for all of your insight.
Thanks, Michelle. It's a pleasure. Ralph, I always enjoy chatting with you, my man.
Same here, Shaun. I'm generally shocked by your Eli answer. I thought you were going to say no, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Well, we have certainly had some amazing guests on our first season here. And since the show is called The Tailgate, we always ask our guests what they deem essential for the perfect tailgate. So let's take a look back and see what they said.
Let me first preface this by saying I'm a rookie tailgater because while everyone's tailgating, I was always playing. I need some chicken. I'm going to need cornhole as well. I'm not a big beer guy, so I'm going to need some liquor. I'm going to need lots of shot glasses because there are going to be a lot of games, and whoever's losing is taking shots, and it's not going to be me. So whoever's playing me is going to be the loser. So 20 shot glasses for that.
I ain't tailgated in a long time. Beer, food. You got to have a football. Everybody plays catch outside at the tailgate. Every time I go to a game, when I pull past the parking lot, I see so many people outside playing catch.
We had Howie Roseman on, and he's the Eagles GM, and we did a segment where we're like, let's do a tailgate draft, Howie, because we're the wacky morning show. And then at the last second, Howie said, I'd like to offer a trade. I will trade you my entire draft of pizza and wings and burgers just for booze. And we're like, no way, we're keeping booze. I don't care what you trade us.
Oh, wings. It's not even, I mean, are you kidding me? You know, I'll bake them sometimes. We're going to drop them in a fryer. I mean, we're going to have some wings. That is ultimate number one item for me in any tailgate.
I'll take the food because I'm guessing you'll take the beverage. For me, I like hot wings. Any sort of hot wings. I mean, as long as it's really good, unhealthy food, then it's essential.
You need brats and Busch Light. That's all you need.
Anybody that knows me knows that I love corned beef or pastrami. So I got to have me a nice Reuben sandwich out there. That and nachos with probably like a whole jar of jalapenos on it. I don't need no meat. I don't need no salsa, no guac. Just melted cheese and jalapenos.
Somebody's got to be like the drunk uncle with the face painted, like, you know, stumbling over the cornhole, knocking the beanbags off, like, or walking through the beanbag path, just being an idiot. And people get pissed at the time, but then you tell the funny story later, like, oh yeah, remember Uncle Jerry? He was so drunk and threw up at the other tailgate.
Michelle, those were great, but I've got to tell you, I have a little tailgate secret for you. I don't like wings.
Neither do I.
Really? That's awesome. It's too much work for too little payoff. It's like a lobster to me. I'm going through all this effort to get the chicken off the bone, and it's just a tiny little bit of meat. Why am I bothering? Just give me a hot dog.
No, great point, and also gets all over your face. I think also one thing that I've failed to mention in past episodes is I think one thing that's essential for tailgates is a better bathroom than a porta potty. Men may not have this issue, but I think all women would agree with me.
Yeah, men don't really care where. They'll just sneak between two cars. It's kind of gross. Now that we've set the table for that, when you do get back to normal, and hopefully next season will be normal for us, how are you going to cover these tailgates? What do you want to do at your first tailgate back?
Well, I know I will not be able to wear these. They'll be in person, but I'm looking forward to getting to know Giants and Jets fans in person, being able to quiz them, see what they remember, and see how much they watch our show.
You know what I think is great is that when you think about it, these last 9 months, it's like we've all been training for these tailgates. We're sitting in one spot, we're eating everything, we're drinking like fish, pretty much put a porta potty in the driveway, and this has been a tailgate party for everybody.
Well, in true end of the year form, we have some superlatives for you for the 2020 New York football season. Ralph, number one, biggest surprise.
Well, for me, and I think for a lot of people, probably especially Jets fans, it was Leonard Williams. Now, when the Giants traded for him, I really did think he was a good player. I did not think he had 11.5 sacks in him. That was just incredible. The Giants were confident that he would have a big year, but that was a bigger year than I think anybody thought he would have.
All right, number two, most valuable player.
Do we have to pick one on these two teams? I mean, is there really a most valuable player? Maybe Saquon Barkley, because we saw how bad the Giants could be without him. I guess if I had to pick one, I think I might say Wayne Gallman of the Giants, because when Saquon first got hurt, they had no running game at all, and that was going to destroy everything about that team. They started to play better when Wayne Gallman started to run. Now, he wasn't a superstar by any stretch, but he gave them just enough to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah, Wayne also gave you a pretty good butt fumble recovery.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, biggest disappointment.
Well, I don't know that there's been a bigger disappointment as a player in quite some time than Chris Herndon, the Jets tight end, mostly because the hype over the summer of what a big year he was going to have in this Jets offense was just through the roof. Adam Gase couldn't stop talking about him, and he did basically nothing. I mean, there were times where you couldn't even tell that he was still out on the field. So he's one of the bigger busts to come through here in a while.
All right, most likely to succeed in 2021.
This is actually easy for me. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold, and I think it's because he's got two avenues to succeed. If he stays with the Jets, they're going to load up on weapons for him. He's going to have a new coach with a new system, and all the pieces are going to be in place. If he goes somewhere else, you just know this is the way it works for Jets fans. If he goes somewhere else, he is going to become an absolute star. The Jets fans are going to look at him for years going, he used to be here. Where was that here?
All right, last but certainly not least, most awkward Zoom moment.
Thankfully, it didn't involve me, but I got to give that to Joe Judge.
You know, really move on. Excuse me 1 second. Hey, whoever's got that, turn that off. Just turn that off. Sorry, guys.
You know, as far as awkward Zoom moments go around the league, that one was actually pretty mild because having to do this virtually all year long, it was definitely awkward for a lot of coaches and a lot of reporters.
Well, now that we are wrapping, I guess one more question I can ask you is, what has been your favorite part of the show so far?
Well, aside from getting to know you, of course, what I've really enjoyed is this is not the usual football talk show. You know, we do talk a little X's and O's. We've had some great guests, but we've had fun. We've done some, what I hope are some funny comedy bits, but it's been fun. We've just seemed like really enjoy this the way you would a tailgate party. How about you? What's been the thing you've enjoyed most about the show?
Probably that I've been able to do it from home and don't need to wear heels. I'm just no, you guys, absolutely. I look forward to every single shoot. I look forward to our conference calls. And I really have a good time seeing your props, and you're very creative, and seeing your personality come to life.
You know what else I've really liked about this has obviously been a miserable season for the Giants and particularly the Jets, but it didn't matter that we've had meaningless football to cover all the way up until week 17. We have fought to the end. We've kept working. We're always playing to win. And you know what? Doug Peterson's right. I'm done here. I know there's still time to go. We got the fourth quarter of the show, but I'm finished. Best of luck to you.
That's it for season 1 of the Tailgate, but have no fear, we will be back with a Super Bowl episode next month. Thanks once again to Shaun O'Hara. You can find him on NFL Game Day morning on Saturday and Sundays at 9 a.m. on NFL Network. Thanks for joining us all season long. For Ralph Vacchiano, I'm Margaux, and we'll see you in a few weeks.